Hey guys, welcome to the Outfitter Connection podcast. I'm your host, Austin Pressey, and I'm here with a very good friend of mine, a ranch owner, the owner of 6S River Ranch, Mr. Shane Stevens, and his ranch manager, Tyler Heron. How are you guys this evening?
And we're doing great, Austin. Good to see you. How about you?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Just plugging along.
Maybe. Good to hear.
Yes, sir. How's the ranch looking, Mr. Tyler?
Oh man, looking great, looking great. We got green grass and food plots getting ready for the next one. Everything's looking great.
Awesome. Shane, if you don't mind, kind of explain the mission or the what you guys do there at 6S.
You bet. Yeah, so it's kind of multifold, and I guess the easiest way to explain it is I've hunted on several ranches all around the world, and I really wanted to bring back the best of what I'd experienced with those ranches. And so it's a combination of quality of food, quality of service, quality of lodging, quality of game. And if you combine those four, it really boils down to an amazing experience that it's hard to replicate. So out of say 15, 20 paid hunts that I've been on, I've only had all four of those combined in a positive way, maybe 5 or 6 times. So if we can replicate that, then that's ultimately the goal. And there's obviously a lot of subsets beneath that of how we get there that we're heading in that direction rapidly.
Yes, sir. Mr. Tyler, how about yourself?
Oh man, um, it's an awesome place. We're looking to, like he said, just make the best hunting ranch we can, and all aspects of that, whether it be lodging, meals, quality of game, especially. And that's where I come in for the most part, is that quality of game and management of those animals and hunts and stuff like that is kind of my strong suit. So hoping to help out with all that and get this thing going to where Shane wants it and get it up to par with what he's experienced on the good hunts, and give everybody that same experience when they come out.
Absolutely. Um, our last week's guest, Colton Bender, was out there with you guys. And I've been out there to the ranch as well. But it's just such a beautiful place. Colton and I, we were talking a lot about how when you get there to the gates, it's just like you go through the gate and it feels like a home. And it's you get to some ranches and like there's trash everywhere and there's it doesn't look great, but your guys' place, it's pristine from the minute you drive through the gate till you get settled into your room. The blinds are always clean. The animals always look healthy. They're full. Uh, it's just a good place to be. I absolutely love the 6S.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I remember you took some amazing pictures out there. We probably used some of them in promotional videos and on our website, social media, in which you are super talented with that, Austin. But we're proud of it. We had a hunter out the other day, and he was like, "Man, I love seeing all these fat animals." And I was like, "Well, what about the big antlers? What about the big horns?" He's like, "No, man, these animals are just so healthy. I can tell you guys take good care of them. It's good to see." So Tyler does a great job there. He's a good steward of the property, the animals, and our hope is that all of the folks that come out, our guests, our hunters, a lot of folks just rent the cabins or the lodge to come out there and stay for getaways, but that they leave with the feeling of home and family. We try and treat them that way, and they kind of figure out quick. You just got to jump in and be part of what's going on and make the most of it.
Absolutely. And you guys kind of have an interesting event. We're recording this in the middle of March, but you guys have a kind of an interesting event coming up in April where it's the solar eclipse viewing. But you guys are kind of renting the ranch out to different people to kind of stop by and to view that area because you guys kind of are in that prime viewing area.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, a lot of God things have happened with the ranch to where he kind of spurs us along to remind us that we're on the right path. But Gatesville, Texas, I'd never heard of that city really. I mean, I think I'd heard of it, but I'd definitely never been through there. Same with Coryell County. When this broker wanted to show it to us, 2.5 years ago, I initially said no, but it turns out that that was the path, and there are so many signs that indicated it was, and then since have validated it. But now Gatesville, Texas, like there's these areas of 75% eclipse or 95% eclipse, and then there's this line that goes up through Texas, and it's the line of totality, and it literally goes right across our ranch, and it's a craze. I mean, I've never heard or seen anything like this as far as a solar eclipse and people being this big of fanatics about it. But they're saying that like schools are shut down. They're warning that traffic's going to be gridlocked for hours. Go shopping 6 days beforehand. That there's going to be the size of the cities are going to double or triple. They're calling a state of emergency in Temple, Texas, or Waco. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And so we started seeing all these folks complaining about Texans and price gouging and $250 for campsites and all that. So we're like, you know what? We got a lot of space. We got a beautiful ranch. So we're opening up like maybe 100 campsites and doing them for $100 a night. And then letting folks use our RV slots and just trying to kind of help. And then that's morphed into us providing barbecue and getting live music and having a couple of my buddies that, play like Max Flynn or this new up and coming artist come out and play, then doing extracurricular activities with everybody so they can enjoy the ranch, 4-wheelers, fishing, horseback, just kind of enjoying a little bit of what it has to offer. So should be fun. Hopefully it'll fill up, and it'll certainly test our capabilities and capacity to handle a big event. But we've done them before in other areas, just never on the ranch. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because you don't see a lot of people doing it. Opening their ranch for a solar event like that. It's kind of neat. It's for, how do I say that? It's forward thinking. It's progressive, right? Most people are like, oh no, I'd rather sell a hunt that day than have 100 people. Well, if you have 100 campsites and 100 spaces available, why not capitalize on that for a ranch? And you got to do a little bit of entertaining. There's some cost and things like that in it. But if people are willing to pay a little bit of money to come out to your place and watch it, why not just set it up for that and make it the best experience possible? Tyler, getting in preparation for that event, I'm sure that's a little bit of an extra workload on you, but like what all are you getting ready for? How are you setting up for that solar event?
So they're kind of planning on strategy, extra staffing, stuff like that, mapping out where guests are going to be allowed to go and not to go. Just more planning than anything as far as kind of structure of how we're going to do things with that many people. Is really what my big goal is there. The ranch does everything for itself pretty much on the campsites and the views. It's that's going to be the good part of things for everybody, no matter what I do. Don't have to do much there, but as far as structure of how things are going to work is our basic goal just set up right now, is figuring out how we're going to do all that.
Yeah, figuring out all the logistics of everything.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. Tyler, can you walk us kind of through your day-to-day operations there on the ranch? Like what all, maybe a 30,000 foot view of what all goes on as a ranch manager for a very successful ranch.
Yeah, no problem. So the main deal every morning, I kind of try to do like a wellness check on animals. We do, fence checks, feed checks. We make sure everything's lined out. It's a lot that goes into it. So kind of on the spot on that one. It's man.
I can help you out, Tyler.
Yeah, if you want to. It just depends on the day, really. I mean, you get surprises in the middle of projects. You get last minute hunts. You get hunts that last longer than you expect, so it cuts into things. So it's you never know what to expect on the ranch. That's for sure. But
yeah, see, what he's saying is that it varies. because any given week, I mean, it may be pulling up fence, it may be building fence, it may be receiving new animals, it may be trapping and get rid of existing animals. Tomorrow they're going out to another ranch, a buddy's ranch, and they're moving a trap out there where we're trying to trap Gemsbok, waterbuck, red lechway, zebra, wildebeest,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. So, that whenever we see whatever we want to trap in that trap, maybe it's next week, maybe it's this weekend, we drop the trap, and then all of a sudden Tyler, hopefully me, Kat, Alex, maybe Rylan, who knows, are all going to be heading over there and wrangling a bunch of wildebeest and hoping nobody gets hurt. Every now and then, Tyler, his days get interrupted during duck season because ducks are coming in. He has to go hunt those. I
I
mean,
have to take care of the ducks, man. There's no excuses about it. We got to take care of the ducks.
yeah,
Absolutely.
they're decimating our ponds. Whatever they eat in those ponds, we need to keep it. So you've been doing good keeping the duck populations down. But supervising staff, managing, dealing with booking hunts, customers. I mean, Tyler gets pulled 50 different directions every day, and he just has to prioritize because it's never ending.
Yeah. I mean, like Monday, we had guests with us in the truck, and we come across an emu with its whole back end missing. We had to catch an emu with guests in the truck and take and quarantine that emu, and it just, you never know when you're going to find something that needs attention right away in the middle of something that might be important. So it definitely varies, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And that says a lot about, Tyler and both Shane, is that the quality of care to your animals matters to you guys. I've seen some places where you'll be driving through with clients and there'll be a sick animal, and you'll call the ranch manager, or you'll call the ranch owner and be like, hey, you've got this and this going on. And they'll be like, oh, we'll get to it later. You actually stopped what you were doing to provide the care to get that animal quarantined off, separated, caught and separated out and taken care of. So that says a lot about your guys' operation.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And Shane, how about for you on your end of owning it? I know that you have multiple different career fields and things like that, but what does your day-to-day look like for the ranch?
Yeah, Tyler and I, we probably talk. I would bet we talk every day. If not on average, it comes out to every day. And we really only have like one weekly call, but then we're constantly staying in touch by text. And, frankly, I love the ranch. That's where I want to be. That's what I'm most passionate about. I've got my other businesses. I think we have 12 total. And you probably know this. I'm sure your viewers know this, but generally speaking, a ranch doesn't make money. The goal is that it will eventually, with all the lodging that's being added and the animal species that are maturing and growing out, that at least someday we can get to break even. So for now, I kind of work in town and run the businesses and hope that they'll bless us with enough to where we can cover the ranch. And Tyler, I think his last week is a rough day at the office, and I just called him and I was like, "Hey, dude, rough day at the office. I need to talk about ranch stuff and get my head straight." They're like, all right. So he dropped what he was doing. We talked for 15 minutes, got my head off of whatever the issue was, and then I went back to work. So I'm trying to get out there on Fridays now to spend at least 2 days a week at the ranch, or at least every other week. So hopefully I can get out there more in the future.
Absolutely. And owning, I've never owned a ranch, but it seems like clear communication with your staff on your ranch is kind of the key to making it all work.
It is. I mean, we've been fortunate with managers, and bottom line, whether you're managing a ranch or a business or running your own business, whatever it is, you got to have good leadership and managerial capability. And first manager we inherited, Buster, and he was phenomenal. He knew that ranch, still does, like the back of his hand. I mean, there's not an inch of that thing that he doesn't know, and he really kind of built most of the infrastructure. So he was with us for a couple of years, and he still comes out there and works on the equipment, maintains roads. He loves big equipment, and he loves the ranch. He truly treats it like his own. And then we're blessed to have Tyler, to where, frankly, Tyler doesn't need my advice to run the ranch, really. He can do that without me, but I think together as a team, we probably maybe make a bigger impact. So I've just been fortunate with having good leaders, and I can say, there's times in other businesses that I haven't been as fortunate, and there's no magic rhyme or reason trick to it. It's like when God wants to give us a good leader, he does, and when he wants us to grind, he makes us grind. So truly, I'm not saying this because we're on an interview or because Tyler's looking at me and he's 6'8" with a red beard. He really is a great leader, a great manager.
Good. And that's important to find somebody that can take care of your baby as if it was their own, right? I always look at ranches as like the ranch owner's baby. They nurture it, they grow it, they take care of it, and then they bring somebody in to help whenever they can't be there. And then eventually that position grows into a ranch manager's position where it's like, all right, now this is your baby. I have to go do what I have to go do every day. You take care of this like it's yours. And it's very important to find somebody that cares as much about your ranch and operation as it would be their own.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the bottom line is they have to take ownership. If they don't take ownership, they don't care, then it's not a fit. There's generally not somebody out there watching over your back, and it's kind of hard to know, how much productive work was done, or if the animals are truly being watched over, or what's happening. I mean, I've heard horror stories from, I'd say 75-85% of the ranch owners that I know, of how things have gone awry. And it's just easy to get away with nonsense. So you got to have somebody with integrity and good values. And frankly, Tyler and Alex and Kat, plus Tyler's family, plus Kat's family, they all live on the ranch. So, I mean, it's their home. It's my ranch, I guess, but it's their home, which makes it collectively ours. And so we try and have a good balance on that, to where, we want their kids to have fun. We want their kids to be safe. And then I want to be able to come out there and feel like it's also my getaway and my escape. So we haven't talked much about it or done much about it, but we have a good balance on that, where I think we all have what we want out of it. And Tyler, you can comment on it. I don't know. There may be more to that.
Yeah, no, we've always had a pretty good balance just naturally. We've never really had to have a conversation about much of it. It's all worked out pretty good. Everybody's comfortable here, and you're able to still come out and do your thing whenever you want. Feel like we've been all, like you said, on the same page with all that, just kind of collectively.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges and struggles of both owning a ranch and then on Tyler's side managing a ranch?
All right. So on the ownership side, I think for us, it's balancing out priorities. Like right now, I'd love to go buy a ton of sable and bongo, but at the same time, I know that I've got to get this lodge built first. So
Right.
on limited budget, where I can't just pull and do everything all at once and blow it out, I've got to budget effectively and make sure that we're doing the priority projects first. So the lodge is going to create more events, more visitors, and then more visitors on the flywheel that drives more extracurricular activities, hunting being the biggest dollar ticket item of that. And so it just creates more and more energy around the ranch. So it's really, I guess, prioritizing. I mean, the next step is building a pool and a hot tub. And then after that, we've got to get the 2-acre lake done. So those are our big expenditures that we'll be hopefully completing within the next year and a half-ish, something along those lines. And then after that, we want to put some little breaks in to where we can pull up the water along the creek a little bit better, because it just flows through and dries up pretty quick. So trying to get more surface water on the ranch, but just really prioritizing the money and trying to balance out expenses and revenue, at least for me. What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I'd say prioritizing is the same thing for me. Like I said earlier, it depends on what's going on between projects, guests, clients, conversations with clients, and the interruptions that come in between that kind of stuff. Um, and just making priorities and getting stuff done seems to be my biggest hassle, on top of the given stuff on the day-to-day ranch, predators, disease, stuff like that's always one of our main troubles. But you get on top of that stuff and stay on top of it, and you usually do pretty good. So I'd say prioritizing what's going on at the time is one of my biggest struggles. And yeah,
I got you. And predators they can be a very big issue for ranches. I've seen some ranches where they go maybe a little less managed, and then I see ranches where like it's kind of their mission is just to rid the place of their coyote problem, their fox problem, their bobcat problem. If they have mountain lions, that problem. How what does that look like for you guys? How do you guys manage your predator problem?
we try to get.
I'll kind of
Oh, sorry.
kick it off.
Go ahead.
I'll give it a little bit of history to where, a couple of years ago, so a ranch 4 years ago, they didn't have a fawn crop for a couple of years. We're 2 miles north of Fort Hood's northern boundary, and those coyotes, bobcats, even a mountain lion came through. They come through our ranch, and it's a buffet. I mean, they look at it and they're like, "All right, what am I in the mood for today? Do I want to axis? I want to try and get one of those Marcor over there. Ooh, addicts would be great." I mean, they want into the place. So 2 years ago, one of my sons counted 30 something fawns that got killed. Now, since Tyler's been there, he's never met a coyote that he likes. And he is hard on the coyote population. Like, I don't think we have any coyotes or bobcats in the property right now.
Nope.
I mean, you mentioned the emu a while ago that had his back end tore off. I was like, oh, maybe we do have one.
Yeah, but no, we have an idea what happened to that one. Don't know for sure, but he doesn't have any bite marks or anything on there. I think what it ended up looking like, just to kind of cap that, it looked like something stepped on him, like one of the Watusi or something, and it just ripped a patch of leather off his backside. Because we found the patch of leather laying in the road, and like I told Daryl and Fred, I was like, if something attacked that emu, they would have took that meat with them. They wouldn't have left it in the road. But yeah, we found the piece of flesh, and it looked like something big stepped on him out in the field, like a bison or one of the Watusi or one of the cattle.
The elk.
Yeah, or the elk. Anything heavy could have done it, and just he stood up at the same time and ripped that patch of skin off. I mean, he's probably going to survive, but it was a little brutal. And first glance, it looks like something grabbed a hold of him.
Yeah. Anyways, what do you do on the coyotes? What's your secrets? I think they killed 6 in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was 6 in a week. We haven't caught any this past week, but it was 6 in 7 days.
Nice.
We have the gut pile outside the game fence with a camera on it. I try to stay on top of them there so I can watch their patterns and trails which they come in on, where they drag bones out. They usually, depending on the coyote, they stop in certain places, and they'll only go to certain spots on the gut pile, and that's when they mess up. When they get into a routine, they get caught. And we've got every hole on the game fence snared or trapped. So when they try to reuse holes, we catch them before they get in, and we try to kind of do our best to bait them with that gut pile and catch them before they try to make their way in here and kill something as well. And it seems to be doing pretty good.
Yeah. The closest analogy, Austin, would be if you had an intruder come into your home, how would you treat that intruder? And Tyler kind of looks at it almost as he's got about 1,000 acres, that it's like his home, and he takes it very personal if a coyote gets in and hurts something. Like he doesn't do well with that. It's a mission to beat them at all times.
Big deal for me is these animals are our livelihood, ranch's livelihood, and as soon as those coyotes start to interfere with that, I interfere with them. So that's how I roll.
Stop them dead in their tracks.
Yep.
And I enjoy predator control on several different aspects. I love calling them in. I love trapping them just as much as I do enjoy shooting them. And it's sad to see states like California, Colorado. There's so many states now that are banning certain types of predator hunting. Colorado's trying to push this one at the beginning of April, or well, it's already been pushed. They're banning mountain lion hunting with dogs the 1st of April. And you see you're already starting to see some of the economic impacts. I've got a buddy that's a houndsman up in Colorado that it's just, he's like, we're going to have to move our operation to another state. I'm glad Texas is very liberal on their predator hunting. They're never going to, I say they're never going to. I'm sure at one point in time, California and Colorado thought that, they'd be mountain lion hunting till the world ends. But I don't see, I don't understand why it keeps getting brought up as being an item for banning. They need regulated and they need checked.
Yeah, it's certainly not logical. And a couple of weeks ago, I was up at the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo. It's in Utah. It was an amazing event. But I got to know the founder or the president of it, Don Pay. Super good guy. He's actually coming down Easter weekend, so he's going to be coming out to the ranch with his son. But he shared a little insight with me, and it's the only thing that's ever made this whole issue logical. So obviously, the left want our guns gone. They want to come after our guns. And when it comes to conservation, they really don't put money into conservation. They don't seem to want to understand or listen to the fact that hunters are the real conservationists. We're the ones that put money into it. We're the ones that build the herds back. We're the ones that save endangered species. So he said, why would they come after all of the animals in a state? Why would they allow predators to take over and not try and control them? And bottom line is, if there's not animals to hunt, if there's not game animals, well, hunters aren't going to want to go out in the field. And hunters are the ones that have guns for the most part. And generally, other countries, they don't want to invade here because of all the gun owners. And that's basically our military, our hunters, and generally athletes. So it's like if we can eliminate the game species that people want to hunt, then it eliminates this big segment of people that stand up and are a threat to them taking over and having their way with this democracy. So I don't know if that's the only time I've heard it, but I believe it.
I think there's a lot of logic to that. You take away hunting, right? I say you can't take away hunting. You can chip away at it and break it down, right? Get rid of trapping, get rid of predator hunting. Then your sheep, your bighorn sheep, your dolls, your mountain goat, you start whittling away at the things that maybe not the whole hunting community can do or has access to, or however you want to look at that. You go after those and get those out of the way. And then you start going after your cervids, your elk, your whitetail, your mule deer, your pronghorn, get rid of those. And then essentially you're left with nothing.
Right. Yeah. So if we can't keep the predator population in check, it's basically what they'll do is they'll annihilate the game. They'll keep growing until they annihilate the game population. And then their numbers are going to decline drastically. So right now we do a lot of population control through hunting. Well, that'll all be done through predators. And then it'll overpower it until there's nothing left for these wild animals to eat. They'll become a problem in cities for a little bit, garbage dumps, all of that, eating cats, eating dogs. And then they're going to run out of a food source and they're going to die. They're going to starve. And then slowly we'll have maybe some animals start to come back, but it's really just going to be a balance then of nature of predators versus food source. So it'll diminish it significantly in those states, unless they can repeal it and get it clawed back. I don't see how they recover as a hunting community if they want quality animals.
Right, and that's the importance of the hunting community, to stand together, not bicker and argue about if somebody uses a crossbow or a muzzleloader or a longbow or a compound or a rifle. If somebody traps, uses dogs, that's where we as a hunting community kind of fall short. Is we do a really good job at making it easy for the antis.
We do, and it's frustrating as a high fence ranch owner. I've seen the comments. I've blocked so many people But it's really ignorance. And my old ranch manager explained it to me best, as far as, why folks want to knock high fence hunting, and it's really because of prices. It's a little more expensive, and it's looked at as a slight that you aren't having a fair chase hunt, which somebody needs to come hunt 900 acres. You've been out there. Certainly, you've got some animals like this Addix cow over here. She'll come up to you. Well, we're not hunting that Addix cow. She's not on the hit list. We've got a couple of emus that'll come up and eat out of your hand. Well, don't shoot those emus. They're not on the hit list, right? But we get attacked for that. And I grew up on a 96,000 acre ranch in New Mexico. It used to be called the Baca Ranch. Now it's called the Valles Calderas. And that's where I'd work in the summers. My dad managed it. And we hated high fences. In fact, we hated bow hunters as well. And now I've got a high fence and I'm a bow hunter. But that was because unethical bow hunters were taking bad shots, and we were constantly finding huge bull elk skulls in the summer. And there was always an arrow shaft or a arrow head with part of the shaft in the body of that elk around his bones. I've learned how to hunt ethically, and I think I'm probably just as successful with the bow as I am with the rifle, because I don't take bad shots. And then really in Texas, with land getting diced up, it's hard to manage a population. I've had leases forever, deer leases all over the state. And sure enough, I finally get some bucks that are 3 years old and they're looking good. And I'm like, okay, let's hold them over for another year. Let's try and get them to 5 years old. And they get shot. And so it's the whole push pull of like, well, if the neighbors are going to just shoot them, we might as well shoot them too. And I don't get a thrill out of that. I like big animals. I like big racks. I like mature animals. So I'd say the high fence is just as much to keep other hunters away and protect our animals as it is to keep the animals in. Because we can grow them as big as we want, let them get as old as we want, let them breed as long as we want. I look at it as a huge plus. And especially after I finally hunted my first high fence ranch maybe 12, 13 years ago, and realized that it's not a canned hunt and it's not unfair to the animals. It's just kind of changing your paradigm about it. So my hope is hunters would stick together. I mean, it's pitiful how they attack each other over just total nonsense and make ourselves an easy target, like you said, for the left. That we got to wisen up quick.
Yes, sir. And that says a lot about you guys too, because, and I watch your Facebook pages and your social media pages really closely, because I do enjoy following along with how you guys are doing and your hunters. You guys aren't taking just any animal, right? You might truck in some animals, but you're waiting until they hit that maturity level. And it doesn't always necessarily have to be antler length or horn length. It's all right that we're going to let these animals grow to this age. Whenever they hit this age, then they're going to be put on the list. And the animals that aren't on the list, like you were talking about your Addix cow and your emus and stuff, those are just kind of lawn ornaments to give the hunters that are there, or the people that come there to see the ranch. It gives them something to look at and enjoy. Like, oh man, we had a close encounter with an Addix cow today, or hey, I had 2 emus come up and eat out of my hand while I was drinking my morning coffee. And it's just kind of different to see, because you hear these horror stories about like ranches that bring in animals and they shoot them right off the trailer. You guys aren't doing that. You guys just had a world record Watusi bull harvested last week, or this was
that thing was last week, I believe. Yeah,
that was huge. And it broke the world record by several inches.
Yes, I've got it. So I got to add clarity on this because it was measured. The original world record is 78 inches, and this one scored 130 or something. It nearly doubled it. But we found out once this guy tried to enter it, so I've got to take all those posts off, I guess, that it can't be entered because Watusi has to be shot in the South Pacific to be entered. So it is the world record by score, but it can't actually be entered into the record book. So I need to update that post. And you're right on the whole drop off deal. I can honestly say we have never brought in animals and had them shot within, I don't even think, a year of them arriving at the ranch. For the most part, I call it kind of the poor man's way of doing it. We had to buy young juvenile animals to create our breeding stock. And so right now, I think we've got 26 different species of animals out there. And most of them, I'd buy maybe 3, 4 females, 1 or 2 males, and then they've been breeding for 2.5 years. And so they're just building those herds up. And, I hope we never have to get into that to where it's just bringing in trucks and dropping them off and getting shot later. And something hunters should be aware of is a lot of those animals are darted, and those that sedative or whatever's in it that stays in the animals for at least a month. So we kind of pride ourselves on sedative free or any type of treatment free. Our animals don't get much unless it's dewormer out there.
And that's a relief to hear, because there are some ranches where they will dart something and then somebody will shoot it, and it's like, oh no, don't do that. That's
right.
It can have some very adverse effects through the meat, through consumption to the harvestee.
Right. Yeah, you just have to hope that if ranches are doing that they're ethical and they would know which animal it was, and that they would tell the hunter. And I know I did hear of one a while back, and the ranch was honest with the hunter and told him he was a little disappointed, but it's part of it.
Yes, sir. Shane, what kind of sense of pride does it bring you to bring this ranch from bare bones, where it started, to grow it into this? I keep calling it a very successful ranch, because in my eyes, you have done everything that's needed to be done. You and your team have done everything that needed to be done to create this ranch into something where people are excited to go to your place. They're having a blast hunting. Colton Bender, he could not stop about how phenomenal your ranch was. What sense of pride does it bring you to know that, like, you've made it from a hunter's point of view, and they absolutely love their entire experience out there?
All right, great question. And it's kind of a deep. So when I was 26, I learned about goals, and from one of my mentors, really a couple of my mentors. And I set these goals, and they talk about envisioning things and manifesting and praying about them. So it was about 20 years before it came to fruition. I started out with a smaller ranch. If you want to own a ranch and you want to deal with all this, and that's your dream and that's your vision, you can't. It's hard to start with just 700-acre ranch or 1,000-acre ranch. You got to start smaller. So I started with the smaller one with my dad, and then added on, and we sold that and kind of flipped it, and then gradually built up. But it's been my vision for a long time to have it. Like, what is out there, it's not specific on the Cottonwood Creek and the Leon River and all that, but overall the vision, I've been looking at that thing for 20 years. So the sense of pride, I can't emphasize it enough what it does when I hear Colton or some of these hunters call me and tell me, like, Shane, Tyler was awesome. Tika, she's one of the best chefs we've ever had. One of the prettiest ranches that I've ever seen. It's everything to me, because that's what I've wanted. That's my life goal, is to create an experience for people like that. So seeing that this whole vision and this concept has worked to create that for people, I can't put into words what it means.
That's awesome to hear. Tyler, how about you? What type of what sense of pride do you get from working on this ranch, and then hearing from your hunters and from clients, and especially from Shane, about, like, how well you're doing and all of that?
Yeah, it's awesome. The place, being able to bring people here and hunters here, and then share the joys of just the views, the animals and stuff like that with people, and then the good feedback is just a bonus on top. I try my best with everybody, and so far I've been doing pretty good with all that, and definitely a very prideful job to be able to show people this place and take people on adventurous hunts here and show them that experience that we're looking to give.
Yeah, because you're getting to watch the animals grow up. You know, from Tyler's point of view, you get to watch the animals grow up into these. It's like, oh man, I wonder what he's going to look like. And then you see, you know, through your guys' feed regimens,
Yes.
through your care of like them, just kind of get to that level of like. To me, it's always fun watching them grow up. Oh,
It is,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
it is. And Tyler's super humble, which I love that about him. But I'll kind of brag on him. I mean, some of the, I won't say names, but top country singers in the nation, um, you know, big name guys in business, they specifically asked for Tyler to guide them. Period. Even dragging him back to the old ranch he used to be at because they want Tyler because he takes care of them, and he just knows how to meet their needs and their wants.
that's awesome. Let's let's dive into a little bit of what you guys have to offer. I know we touched on some of the animals, but you guys not only have a slew of exotics, but you guys also kind of pride yourselves on some big whitetail as well.
Yeah, I'll on the a little bit on the history of the ranch, and this is part of what makes us unique. So, you're kind of hopping the ranch up as far as the infrastructure that's there and everything that's been put into it. So, the former ranch owner, I won't share the actual number, but millions of dollars was put into the ranch by the former ranch owner. And part of his program was in 2009 or 10, he wanted to grow some of the biggest bucks in the world. So they started growing, if what I hear is correct, 400 plus inch deer on the ranch. And then Texas Parks and Wildlife started giving them a hard time. And he's the West Texas oil guy. And I know that mindset. I'm a West Texas guy myself. And it's like, okay, if you're gonna push me, I've got ways to handle it. So he just let them all out. And now we've got uh, monstrous deer growing in open, just shy of 1,000 acres area from the breeding stock that was there on the ranch back in 2012. So that was let out 12 years ago. I mean, we still produce 200 plus inch whitetail in our pasture, and I don't think many ranches can say that they do that.
And let's put a common misconception to bed here real quick with whitetail in Texas on a high fence. There's this weird misconception that they're pumped up from birth with all these growth hormones and they're genetically mutated. That's just simply not the case. I don't know where that strip of misinformation came from, but it's
People
proper
that don't know
feed.
what they're talking about.
Exactly. It's people that, in my
Yeah.
opinion, it's people that look at it because they can't afford it. So they've got to create this unnecessary hype about it.
Yeah.
Because whitetail hunting on a high fence, there are inexpensive options. And then whenever you start getting into those big numbers, those big number deer, big inch deer, the numbers, you know, they're not always affordable for the everyday working man, but they're still obtainable if you play your finances right. But it really comes down to good genetics from the start, right? From your doe and your buck, and then a proper feed regimen.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
and with that proper feed regimen, Tyler and I were talking before the show started, you guys actually do food plots to supplement your feeders.
As much as we can. Yeah, we maximize that big time. In fact,
And
the cat, our other ranch hand, he just found another field that the old homesteaders had utilized out there that we didn't even know was a field. So he's plowed that, and I guess it's maybe another 3 acres that we'll be able to plant.
perfect. How important is that on a cost saving? Because feeding protein and corn can get very expensive. I know some ranches, some smaller ranches are spending 13 and 15 and $20,000 a month, and they're just running protein feeders all day, every day. Not that they're spinning all day, every day, but they'll spin for 10, 15 seconds in the morning and 5 or 10 seconds in the evening. And it's with having a food plot, you can significantly cut your costs down through your spring and your summer, when the deer are kind of finishing out. And then in the winter, you can kind of turn them feeders up a little bit, give them that little bit of protein, build up that body fat for the winter. But how important is having that food plot, not only for cost saving, but to promote good antler and horn growth?
Yeah, Tyler, I'll let you speak to the promotion of horn growth and antlers and health of the herd, and then I can kind of speak to the financial side if you want.
Yeah, that'll work. So, yeah, really the food plots are for the grass, the protein, stuff like that for those guys. Their horn growth is pretty much out of the protein you give them. You just make sure they have the constant protein when they're in velvet and just before they shed, and that usually produces pretty good horn growth. Good protein, good feed is a big play in that. You can't just give them any protein and expect it to work great. But you give them good feed, good protein when they need it in velvet, and those food plots come into play as far as cost goes. Pretty significant. You use the right. It gets kind of difficult depending on your ranch, where you're at, what'll grow in your soils and stuff like that. It can be a gamble on that stuff until you figure it out and get it lined out. But once you do, those food plots significantly cut down your protein. Like you said, corn's always going to be a nice snack for those deer and stuff. They're always going to hit your corn, but the food plots is a big deal for after rut. They get that nice roughage. They keep the fat on, natural grass in their stomachs, because otherwise, I mean, a game fence can only support so much grass for so many animals. So those food plots become necessary when you have larger herds in a ranch. And really, the majority of the benefits from it is going to be in the financials. Just the time it takes to disc and plant that seed saves you a lot of money through those seasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I bet the guys out there spend maybe, I don't know, 10 days of the year on a tractor. Maybe it's more, disking and plowing and doing all of that. And then maybe the seed cost us $4,000 a year, something along those lines. And I think we've got something to the effect of maybe it's 40 plantable acres or 50 plantable acres. So I don't have the math down perfectly there. But if you look at protein, we are feeding probably 22 tons of protein a month. And that adds up in a hurry. And then on top of that, we're feeding probably a trailer load of alfalfa every month and a half, 2 months, something like that. So if you look at an acre of land, productive land, in our area without irrigation, without supplementing, on average, it'll produce about, I think it's 12,000 pounds of forage a year. So if you're looking at protein at $550 a ton, well, it's they come up to $3,000 worth of produce that thing's producing. So you multiply that times, say, 40, and there you go. You're up to 3,000. I don't know, whatever. I don't have my calculator. I can usually do this stuff in my head, but 120,000, like $120,000 worth of groceries that you're producing. Just cut this out if that's totally wrong and off base.
Well, I'll look into the math on it. But
yeah,
and that's crazy, because you can use the money that you're saving based on your food plots, right? You can take that money and implement it into infrastructure, lodging, animals, fencing, just anything else that the ranch may need. If more ranches would do food plots, and yes, it's a lot of work to get a food plot going, right? You got to clear the land off if you don't have fields. You've got to, take some of the brush out. Then you've got to disc it, fertilize, maybe not necessarily fertilize it if you got good soil, but plant it and then let the animals take care of the harvesting side of it. So the first couple of years might be rough until you, like Tyler was saying, until you get figured out like what's going to work best there. But once that 2 years or however long is up, you're essentially making free food, with a very minimal cost.
Mhm.
for your animals, and it's saving ranches an absolute insane amount of money if they would just implement that. But it's too easy to go down to the feed store and buy your corn, which corn is great for a filler, but it doesn't have a whole lot of nutritional value. Your protein,
Right.
things like
Almost
that, your
none, yeah.
mineral licks, those are your nutrition for your animals. And it scares me whenever I pull into a ranch and it's like, well, how much protein do you guys buy a year? Or how much protein do you guys feed a year? Oh, we don't feed protein, we're corn only. It's like, well, you don't have any grass, and corn's not
Mhm.
that great for animals. I actually see a lot more wormy animals on a corn only diet than I do on a mixed balanced diet between corn and protein.
Hmm. That makes
Yeah.
sense though, because I'd assume they get a lot of the worms from eating stuff off the ground, and protein
Yeah.
feeders, you're elevated off the ground. Corn, obviously, they don't have a choice. That
Right.
actually makes sense, Austin.
It's an interesting perspective on it and the way I look at it. But I just love the fact that you guys supplement your costs with food plots, because like I said, it's just something you don't see on every ranch out there.
Good to know.
What other animals? So you guys have like your common Texas exotics, right? You've got your black buck, your axis, your fallow deer. What other things do potential clients have the opportunity to come and either see or harvest with you guys? And I know there's a long list.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it, and Tyler, you can fill in the gaps. But
Mhm.
like uh, Colton, he harvested our first what are called kind of a super exotic or expensive animal, or a rare animal. So we've got 3 different species on the ranch that there's less than around 5,000 in the wild. And those are our Addicts, our Markhor, and our Arabian Oryx.
Mhm.
So we're trying to build stable herds of those species and help the overall population and survivability of it. There's actually a thing here in Texas called the second arc that will take animals from Texas ranches and go back and try and repopulate them in their native lands, which I think is a great idea. But the problem is the folks that hunt them to borderline extinction or keep doing the same thing, even if laws are put in place to protect them. Could be wrong, but I think a lot of times we're just spending a lot of money to send these animals to their death.
No.
There are some success stories with it, and I won't bore you with that. So, anyways, we've got anything like we mentioned earlier, emu. We've got elk, red stag, your typical rams, your mouflon, your black Hawaiian, painted deserts, all that. And then keep going, Tyler. Help me out, brother.
We harvested that Afghan Uriel yesterday, or this morning. That was this morning. We got a nice Afghan Uriel. We got Trans-Caspian Uriels. We got the sable going up. We got we're going to have that herd started fairly shortly. So we'll have that. Like you said, we got the Markhor. We've got Ibex of all different sizes. Nilgai, of all different sizes,
Red sheep.
Yep, the red sheep. We got the red sheep. We got some big aoudad running around back there in the back. We got scimitar oryx. The list goes on. We got some big trophy bison running around out there, hogging up those food plots we were talking about.
Yeah.
As you can see,
Rio
we got
Grande turkey.
Yeah, we got a bunch of turkeys. I would say we have ducks, but we don't have ducks. Those are mine. We've got some Watusi.
You're like, I've got ducks.
Yeah, we got some big Watusi. Yeah, it's getting up there. Like you said, we got the Addicts. We got some Selk still. We got some trophy Selk growing out. Those Selk are getting big. We got a handful of those guys left. The stag elk cross. They turn out to be a pretty cool trophy when they get mature. We still got a handful of those guys running around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No, we're about to add in Gemsbok, Red Lechwe,
Impala.
Waterbuck, and Impala.
oh, that'll be awesome. That'll be awesome. Those are always fun animals to watch. They're so spooky and skittish. Like to get a photo op with a Gemsbach, a Lechway, those types of animals, it's pretty neat to see. And then to have a hunter come out and want to hunt one, it's like, oh, you're in for a challenge that week. The You were talking about some of the success stories, like the Dama gazelle, the scimitar horned oryx. Both of those were hunted to extinction in their native ranges, and due to some Texas ranches coming together, those animals are now thriving back in their native grounds. And then same thing with the Markhor. Like the one Colton brought, they're they're getting fewer and fewer, although there are still hunts for them in their native ranges. But it's not an animal that a lot of people either know about, or they know about them, but they don't realize that they're here in Texas. And they are kind of one of those animals it can be kind of hard to get a hold of because there's not very many of them in the state. But the ranches that do have them, they really do push towards a conservation effort to kind of grow their own herd of them, not just to hunt, but just to have, because they are fascinating wild animals. And that's actually how I got acquainted with Shane over at 6S, is because I brought you guys a Markhor from another ranch.
That's right. Yeah, you helped get our herd started. I think we bought maybe 8 total initially, 2.5 years ago, and they're very productive. We've got over 20 now, so they've been living pretty good. We've only lost a few. I've heard they're pretty fragile and they die off easily, but we haven't had that. And they're also Houdinis. I mean, they'll get out of anything. So we've got a pretty good fence system, and I don't think we've had any get out so far. But a lot of people are afraid to get them because they'll jump a 10-foot high fence. They climb trees. For all I know, they'll climb a fence, but I've just been obsessed with them so long that I had to try it. And it's working out so far. So far, so good.
Awesome. I love to hear that. And then you guys also have a breeding program. Do you still have your breeding program for elk?
We do. Right now, we're up to how many mature cow elk do we have, Tyler, between our heifers and cows?
I think between the heifers and cows, we've got like 13 or 14 now.
All right, so 13 or 14 cows, and then several young bulls that we'll see what they turn into this year. We had a 2-year-old bull that was 350 inches last year. Our 4-year-old bull was over 400. So it'll be exciting to see what those guys do this year. So I think we're up to maybe how many total, Tyler? 16, 17, 18?
Yeah, we're getting close to 20.
Yeah. So hopefully it'll be, I mean, like anything we do out there, it's cost us a ton to get into the genetics. Even our stag, our breeder stag scored over 500 inches last year. We try and start with top quality genetics. And so it means we start out with a smaller herd, and it takes a lot longer to build. But the hope is it'll kind of be like the deer population, where people are like, oh my God, where are you buying all these deer from? It's like, well, we buy some to supplement, but believe it or not, a lot of these are born and raised right here on the ranch. Like, and pens, no, no, they literally breed and grow on the ranch.
With all those different types of animals, and it's not uncommon whenever you're out there at the ranch to be sitting either in a stand or driving around to see a multitude, but what you're seeing is only a small fraction when you're either in a blind or driving around. Those animals are always on the move on your guys' place, and it's so neat because every bend in the road or every turn you make, you never know exactly what you're going to see out there.
Right. And with the topography, it makes it hard to hunt. And I mean, I hate to admit it, but we have had some bow hunters extend their stay to get their quarry, where they thought they can get it done in 3 days, and they ended up staying a little bit longer. Or, we had one fallow buck that a guy wanted this year, and he was like, oh, I'll just drive out there and get it. Well, he came out. How many times did he come out, Tyler?
3 times.
3. Got frustrated, but either way, he never got the fallow because it's just hard. I mean, it's thick. You've got 2 miles of Cottonwood Creek. flowing through the property, and you've got the topo from the Leon River, and it makes it easy for those animals to hide. But the reality is, we estimate we have about 700 animals on the property. So folks go out and see maybe 80, 100 animals, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! You got animals everywhere." But you're right; you're only seeing a portion of them.
Especially like your axis and aoudad. Those are very, very leery animals, and they like to stay in that thick cover and hide. And there's other animals out there, but those are the two like most people that are listening are gonna recognize of like, oh, if I want to go hunt those, it's not so much a quick just set up and hunt and that's the end of it. If you go chase some of these animals on a high fence, you're gonna be in for a wild ride because they're not the easiest things to hunt. It's not this weird perspective that everybody has where it's like, oh, you just drive in the gate, go sit in a blind and shoot something. If I handed for the people that always say, you know, like, oh, high fence hunting's easy, I always put it to them this way. If I hand you a picture of a single axis of, you know, one of these spookier animals, and you go kill that exact animal, that's the only animal you can hunt. You go kill that exact animal without using a blind, a feeder, our side by sides, or anything. If it's that easy, this should be no problem for you. And you know, obviously, nobody ever takes me up on that offer, but it's one of those. You know, it's not what everybody perceives a high fence to be, and especially your guys' place, like you were saying, Shane, with the different terrain features and topography out there.
No, I was just validating what you said. I just said you're 100% right, Austin.
Yes. We are kind of coming up on that hour block, maybe a little over. Shane, what are some future endeavors you guys are in other than the ones that we've already talked to? Like what's some things that are coming up that you guys are looking forward to, or some just some new changes to the range?
Yeah, it's just, I can't wait to add a few more species to it, and some of the more difficult species to get. And so hopefully we'll get there in time. The pool and the hot tub, those are going to be awesome. Give another option to the hunters. We've got a really cool ski range set up to where you're kind of shooting off of a cliff and you've got like a 20-mile view behind it. Everybody loves going out there and shooting ski, but we're going to build that out to where it's legit with stone off of the ranch and a lot of the stuff we've done already. We've used boulders, stone, gravel, caliche, whatever from the ranch to make it as much of. We built this off of the soil right here on this land. Same with the rock areas. You've been up there, walked around plenty on outside of the river bottoms and the creek bottoms. There's tons of flat rock. So we're using that for paving around the pool and the hot tub. Then we want to add a 2-acre lake. So that's another goal or a vision. And that's something that's probably 6 years down the road, is I want to be able to catch about a 12+ pound largemouth bass out of the lake on the ranch. So we're going to be working towards that. And then just trying to get more surface water. And I'm sure I'm missing stuff. Tyler, what else we got?
Oh man, I'd like to see a lot of this cedar going as a future project to get a little more visibility out here. And other than that, just like the beautification projects we're talking about, like you're talking about the pool, the lake, stuff like that, is gonna be really cool getting that stuff together in the next few years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Austin, that's one thing we've taken real seriously, is the cedar. So we bought a high flow bobcat and this big mulching attachment that goes to the front. One of our guys cuts cedar almost full time out there, and we're just trying to eliminate them because each cedar will consume about 50 gallons of water a day, a mature cedar. And when you look at the water problems we're having, it doesn't take long to figure out that's probably part of it. Because none of that water is getting down and recharging our aquifers. So we're trying to get back to a lot of native grasses, buffalo, blue stem. And some of the research I've done is those roots will go down up to 20 feet in the ground. Haven't personally dug down and validated it myself, but apparently the rainwater will follow those roots, and that helps go down and get underneath to where it's not impacted by the sun and evaporation, and allows that to get down into the water table. You know, the soil is one of the best things for conserving water and holding water. And since we started clearing cedar, we have had one new spring pop up. It's been
Awesome.
flowing for 2 months now. Hopefully we'll see more and more of that, and just kind of try and restore it back to what it originally was, except with a lot of crazy animals that land had never seen.
Yeah. And that's
Mhm.
the downside to cedar is when you get cedar that grows up, the needles fall because they're so acidic, you almost can't, you lose that patch, right, of grass because of how acidic the needles are. And so clearing cedar is a very vital point of managing a ranch because you have to manage the cedar. And it's a difficult task to get rid of all of it, although having some does create some good bedding areas and some good cover for animals, but having too much is very detrimental to a ranch.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Yeah, in fact, so we on these big freezes where people have lost maybe say 20% of their herd, 30% of their herd, we may lose 1%, 2% because we've got all of the valleys and the topo, and then we've got thick cover on a lot of these south facing slopes. So when that northern is coming in, they can bed down in these cedars, which we're leaving all of that cedar for them, so that way they've got cover and it provides them for a little bit of extra warmth. And I noticed, like when it was snowing, it almost created like a little ice cave inside of these cedars, and there were bedding areas under them where these different deer and different species are kind of bedded up. But another thing I see ranchers doing is they'll get bulldozers out there and they'll just bulldoze these cedars out of there, and a lot of the um, topsoil and everything along with it, pile it up, and then they burn it. But we're mulching this limestone, or I mean, we're mulching the cedar and putting it on top of any of the rocky areas with the thought that it may help erode that limestone a little bit and create a better layer of topsoil. So maybe in 10, 15 years, we'll probably hopefully have more soil than the ranches that just pile it up and burn it.
Kind of on a closing statement, Shane, what advice do you have for somebody that's looking to buy either an operating game ranch currently or building up their own paradise and their own living trophy room? What kind of advice do you have for a listener that's maybe thinking about getting into that type of operation?
Yeah, obviously set goals and then work into the numbers and start small. And you got to be willing to work hard. So buy a small ranch, maybe it's 10 acres. Not a ranch, I guess, a little farm, gentleman's ranch, whatever you want to call it. And you want to find the ugliest, nastiest dog out there you can. And then go in there, clean out the cedars, leave the oaks, leave the hardwoods, put a nice gate, make it look good, even add a little bit of infrastructure, something along those lines. And then all of a sudden, it's a much more valuable piece of property, and then flip it. So you use your evenings or your weekends to do that type of work and work your real job during the day. Be smart financially. Don't spend everything you make. Try and save some of that as well, and then just slowly build up, because there's not a way to get there without saving and hard work.
I think that's solid. That's a very solid piece of advice for somebody that's wanting to get into this. And what about you, Tyler? What's a piece of advice for somebody that's looking at maybe changing their career path and wants to get into the ranch managing side? I know you don't just wake up one day and decide you're going to go be a ranch manager, but you've started from kind of the bottom and worked your way all the way to the top. What's your piece of advice for getting out there in front of ranch owners like Shane or other ranches and getting your foot in the door to be a laborer, and then how do you work up to be the top?
Oh man. So let's see how to put this one. I'd say the biggest thing in my job and being successful at it is knowledge, and whether that comes from being in classes, doing, like, personally myself, I've done a lot of research on these animals. I've been thrown into a lot of positions in previous ranches to where I didn't know anything about certain animals, and then just got thrown into taking care of these things. And bottom line comes down to using your extra time wisely. researching these animals, researching how you can allow these animals to thrive, how you can, you know what I mean, just manage herds, manage trophy animals to get to where they need to be at the same time as, you know what I mean, just herd management in general. A lot of it comes down to just, like I said, basic research, and then getting a job in a place that'll let you get in there with no experience and get into a ranch hand position is where it pretty much boils down to needing to get in there and get your hands dirty and just start, like you said, start at the bottom is what it usually takes, and prove yourself hands on, and then just grow your arsenal of knowledge from there. And once you've got that knowledge and stuff and you can put it to work, it's hard for a ranch owner to deny somebody what they're doing and how they're doing it. Yeah.
I love it, man. Shane, Tyler, I appreciate you guys coming on. Where can people find either your personal Facebook pages or your personal social media pages, if you want to get those out, to get in contact with you about, if they have questions, Tyler, if somebody has a question about, wanting to work on a ranch and advice that you could give them, or even Shane, if somebody's looking to buy a ranch and maybe needs a little bit of guidance on how to get into that, how can people get a hold of you there? And then also, how can people get a hold of Success River Ranch?
Tyler, if you don't mind, maybe you could share your phone number, but we've got a website. It's just Success River Ranch. And then we're on Facebook, Instagram, another one, maybe TikTok, something like that. Tyler and we kind of know how to use Facebook. We don't know how to use the other ones too well. So we have to have our marketing person deal with it. But we have a presence on all of those. And a lot of folks just call Tyler. They'll instant message us on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Facebook's a good way to get me. It goes to my phone. I can see most of that. Facebook's pretty good.
Awesome, guys. Well, again, I appreciate having you guys on. I've had a blast. We're gonna have to do another one of these, hopefully one day in person, where we all just kind of get together around the fire pit or something and share some stories and some experiences that we've all had. And man, it's been so much fun. I feel like this episode's been very educational. Hopefully it inspires somebody to go after a ranch job or to go buy their own ranch and start their own operation and grow it into something very successful.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for that. I hope so too, Austin. Appreciate your time, bud. Good idea. And let's come out to the ranch and we'll do it live. The lodge will be done in June-ish. So maybe by then we'll be able to kick back and sit around a fire and tell some stories. It'll be good.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back out sometime and take some pictures again. I enjoyed that a lot.
Awesome. We'll make it happen.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Aaron. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Later. Awesome. Bye, guys. Thanks, Tyler.